For more on this, we're now joined by Professor Sethulego Matebesi, who is Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State. And he joins us via our video link to unpack this ANC Manifesto review. Professor, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. The ANC made these commitments to its voters at least about 4 years ago. When it comes to this reviewing process that will be done by the ruling party, what are your expectations of this?
Hi, good evening, Mbali, and good evening to your viewers. No, it is very commendable what the African National Congress is doing. Our democracy is enshrined on engagement, and this is exactly what the African National Congress is doing. Not only engaging their members, but also taking South Africans into confidence as to what they have achieved during the past 4 years. I think that is a good thing to do, but perhaps also I think there's another strategy involved within this campaign, and perhaps that is to gain and make rapport with the citizens out there, because there is always a huge concern in terms of public communication.
And Professor, when the ANC looks back on its, commitments it's made to the people of South Africa, and particularly its voters, it says that it has achieved at least 70% of those commitments. But one would ask that with a very high unemployment rate, and if you remember back then, President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech was really centered around the state of the economy and also job creation. Will their voters be convinced this time around that when it comes to prioritizing and their achievements when it comes to job creation, one would say that it's still pretty much lacking?
Yes, Mbali, with all the challenges that the party is facing, we know that unemployment, it is a huge problem in South Africa. Poverty is a huge problem in South Africa, and many other challenges, load shedding, you mentioned them, but we don't have any credible alternative. Irrespective of the entrance of new political parties into our political space, the elections is there for the ANC to lose. For several reasons. Yes, the ANC may be under tremendous pressure, and perhaps it is this particular point that makes the ANC to continue making the very same mistakes that they've been doing, because they know that the electorate will stand with them. And perhaps it's about time, because our role is not to encourage South Africans to vote for Party A or Party X, but this is definitely an opportunity for the African National Congress to close the gap between themselves and the onslaught from opposition parties and even new entrants in the political landscape.
And how do they close that gap, Professor, especially during a time where South Africans have experienced the most load shedding this country has ever seen? And, how do you go back to those, you make commitments to saying that, well, vote for us again, but, these are the problems, that many South Africans have been faced with, quite particular being load shedding, which has been frustrating to many people and has even led to more job cuts?
Yeah, a very good question. But fact of the matter is there are some fundamental challenges that our African National Congress are facing and South Africans on a daily basis. And it's only up until people realize that democracy, the power, political power, lies with them as citizens. And once they use their democratic and exercise that democratic right in the right way, they will put tremendous pressure on parties like the African Nation, or for any other party that may be in a, ruling somewhere else, somewhere in South Africa. So it's going to be very difficult. It is going to be one of the most fiercely contested elections, not only for the African National Congress, but also for the opposition. And we have seen on numerous times how the ANC devised means to try and counter the negative narrative around their performance. And I foresee that they will once again this weekend try to pronounce a narrative, a good narrative of a government that is facing challenges, but yet knowing what they are doing. And unfortunately, there are too many disgruntled people. There are too many residents who will just decide perhaps not to vote, but not necessarily vote for the opposition parties.
And Professor, how important is this manifesto review for the ANC, particularly at a time where they have been told on numerous occasions that we might find ourselves, facing coalitions even on a national scale? When the ANC reflects on these commitments, how important and crucial is this period that they're undertaking?
Well, Mbali, if you just cast your eye a couple of weeks back, you will see that almost on a weekly basis, it was the opposition that have been dominating the political space. And the African National Congress had to do something, but I strongly believe that perhaps this event has been planned a long time ago, but this is very important for them to also engage with their own members to create that vibrancy, to say that the African National Congress is still relevant irrespective of the challenges that they are facing. And I think perhaps that will be the tone of this weekend's event.
At the same time, when the ANC gave out these commitments to its voters, they were facing factional battles within the party. It was just after that 2017 conference. And of course, seeing those two camps within the ANC just yesterday, we saw its former Secretary General Ace Magashule launching his own political party with the factional battles that, they've actually experienced. Clearly this time around, it will be something that they will continue to touch on, especially where they were mostly focused on internal battles facing the party rather than, the actual people who are voting for them at the polls.
Yes, those who have studied organizational culture will tell you that your former employees or individuals who have been members of your ex-members can actually cause more harm to you. Aisma Hashule and many other members who have joined opposition parties knows the African National Congress in and out. And one would have to ask, how damaging will these public pronouncements that they will be making from now onward what harm will that cause to the African National Congress? And we know that to a certain extent, this will definitely dent the chances of the African National Congress. It will also take away from the opposition, but we have seen with the entrance of the EFF that new parties like ACT will definitely have a significant impact on how the African National Congress will perform because of some of the pronouncements that will be made, some of the narrative about how weak the African National Congress has been. But South Africans also has to be cautious. There have to be a lot of questions about leaders like that because they have been part of the African National Congress. And when they're outside of the ANC, then they start blaming the organization. And that is also very questionable.
Professor, thank you so much for your time here in the late edition. That is political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi there giving us his insight in terms of what we can expect when it comes to that ANC Manifesto review that will be taking place on Sunday, looking back at those commitments the ANC made to its voters in 2019.